Hello, I'm Jason Solomons, and welcome to the second edition of Seen Anything Good Lately. It's the cultural chat show that gives you bags of recommendations of what to watch and read in the company of some great writers, filmmakers, actors, musicians and artistic types. I find out if they've seen anything good lately and get them to share their passion for a great watch with you.
Like the other night, I watched the Laura Marling gig that she did at the Union Chapel, and that was just beautiful.
I saw a great documentary about people who draw cartoons for the New Yorker, which is really fun. It's called Very Semi-Serious.
That's what this is about, that passion for sharing your love for something you're deeply into. And with so much out there on so many different platforms and formats, we all need a bit of guidance. So let Seen Anything Good Lately be your guide. I'm Jason, your host, a film critic by trade for over 20 years, working for newspapers including The Observer and The Mail on Sunday, as well as presenting the first years of The Guardian's Film Weekly podcast and being London's film guru on BBC Radio London. This is the show I've been wanting to present for some time now, though, getting well-known people to talk about what it is they love watching, reading and listening to, getting them to do the critical work for me and presenting it to you. I think criticism has become about curation and recommendation these days. It's about so many tastes finding their niche in so many different spaces and being able to test out your suitability to new material. And if you want to take part and are itching to share your new discoveries with us, why you like something as much as why you switched over or even off, just get in touch by emailing SAGL@jasonsolomons.com. So SAGL, all caps, at jasonsolomons.com. I'd love to hear from you. Right, let's find out who my guests are on this episode. Marie Duff is one of the UK's finest actresses. The star of Shameless, Suffragette and St Joan on the stage can now be seen in the superb three-part reconstruction drama The Salisbury Poisonings, when Wiltshire became the epicentre of an international espionage row and murder. And my second guest is the instantly recognisable Simon Bird, known for performances in hit comedies The In-Betweeners and as Adam on Friday Night Dinner, now turning filmmaker for his debut, The Days of the Bagnold Summer. We'll find out more about the new offerings from Marie Duff and Simon Bird, and then hear if they've seen anything good lately. But before we find out about Anne-Marie and Simon, here's that question again. Seen anything good lately, Jace? Well, I'm glad you asked, because yes, I finally finished Killing Eve Season 3. I really enjoyed stepping back into that world. I mean, some people said it was tailing off after its first killer season, and in a sense that's true. Nothing can beat the surprise of that fresh new series and that fresh new character embodied by Jodie Comer. But I thought Season 3, everyone was on great form, and I loved the style of it and the music of it. It was really bold and really fresh, and I was gripped by each episode and finding out where it was going to go. So yes, it wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed Season 3. I've read a very moving memoir, State of Disbelief, by Juliet Rosenfeld, about the grief of watching her husband die from cancer and squaring it with her job as a psychotherapist, and how grief is sort of unidentifiable. It talks about Freud a lot, and it talks about how you can never sort of get a handle on this grief, and how mental health is so important these days. Talking about it sometimes helps, sometimes doesn't. It was very honest and frank, this memoir, The State of Disbelief by Juliet Rosenfeld. And, well, I've been watching a lot of football. I don't mind admitting that. And I don't mind the whole behind closed doors thing. I've got quite used to that sound. And I've also got quite used to the fake crowd sound. That's got better as the coverage has gone on. I think I just like watching football. And I think the players are getting increasingly used to playing in those situations too. Some of the standard is pretty good. I must say that it was nice being without the stress of supporting my own football team during lockdown when there wasn't any football. That's Arsenal, of course, and now they've come back and full of agony, and life is so much harder and more on edge. So this is a real problem, but I have enjoyed watching a lot of football, so thank you for getting Project Restart going, Premier League. Right, that's what I've seen lately, so now it's time to introduce my first guest. Marie Duff was the breakout star of comedy Shameless on the TV and has been in films that range from The Maudlin Sisters to Nowhere Boy and Suffragette, as well as award-winning performances on the stage in St Joan, Macbeth and Sweet Charity, as well as an unforgettable Queen Elizabeth I in The Virgin Queen. And now she's starring in the gripping TV reconstruction The Salisbury Poisonings. It's a 3-part series around the dramatic events when a former Russian agent and his daughter were poisoned with a deadly nerve agent called Novichok in a quiet Wiltshire city in 2018. As the series, directed by Saul Dibb, premiered during the UK's coronavirus lockdown, I spoke to Anne-Marie Duff about how that story suddenly seemed eerily relevant to our new times.
Hello, mate.
Oh, lovely to see you.
And you too. Here we are.
Virtually
Live.
see you, I'm afraid. I can't really see you.
Live from my own front room.
It is a delight to see you in the Salisbury Poisonings. What a role that is. It's very fun, isn't it? Because she's obviously a real life person with a real crisis to manage. And in it, she says to her husband, "Oh, I don't think I can manage this." Yeah. Did you feel what she must have felt? Because I can't imagine the enormity of taking on such a thing.
I know, completely terrifying. I think that's it. Because it's as huge as the circumstances we're facing now. You know, people's lives were at risk. It's a wonder only that one person died, really. It's so shocking. And also because of her background, and I got to know her, and I knew that she'd come up through social work. That was her training, and so she was a real grassroots individual. That
gave you a bit of humanity rather than just a sort of clipped bureaucratic person who's clicked into mode. There was a real heart to her.
Exactly, and it sort of changed the dynamic of the whole piece, to be honest, which was great, because you don't want to watch spooks again. When you're looking at people who are frontline people for us, you want to have a real representation of that, and how hard it is and how much they care and all of those things.
Yeah, a great cast that you're alongside there. I mean, Rafe Spall in particular, but I mean, everyone's great, from Johnny Harris to Myron Burring. I mean, everyone's just brilliant. Your police lot, everyone's top level actors. You'll be watching it going, "God, great, they're all in it." Nigel Lindsay.
Oh my God, I know. I couldn't believe it, actually. I think that has a lot to do with Saul, because he was at the helm. He's the kind of director who attracts a certain kind of actor, perhaps.
Yes, he's always had good cast, hasn't he, Saul? Yeah.
The writing, though, because we've had these two writers who've come from Panorama, that was their background. So when you first read the scripts, they didn't read like TV scripts. The dialogue wasn't that sort of bog standard way of speaking that we're all used to hearing, and that was really refreshing.
It feels like I was a bit not functional. That's damning with praise. Business-like almost in a way, procedural.
It was like that. So there wasn't, the usual sort of cliche paragraphs or people saying "look" every 2 seconds. So that was really nice, actually. But also, you knew that it would have complete authenticity as a result of that, because they knew everything about the whole situation. And also, my character, Tracy Daskovich, she helped with the writing of the scripts. She was there supervising it all. So it was, in terms of facts, it was just bang on,
But what do you do as an actress when you get that? Because some of it is quite clipped, and you've got to bark orders, and you've got to say things that you Anne-Marie Duff would never say, like ordering a lockdown of an entire city centre. Well, where do you then put in the you-ness of it? Obviously, she's a mum in it, and that helps because you are one as well. Do you bring all of that naturalism to it and think, where can I inject that into the script that I've been got?
The great relief for me, I think, was when I met her and realised how down to earth and how normal, if that's appropriate, a person she is, so I didn't have to be some sort of archetype, so you just go, oh, I get it. You're just a human being saying those things. And it made it a lot easier for me. And how frightened she was, she's so upfront about how frightened they all were. That you don't appear to be some sort of robot. You can allow yourself to be a bit vulnerable and to be a bit messy and all of those things.
Yeah, you did that so well. I mean, it really is the fright. You never see that in a police procedural, really. Certainly not in the American ones that you mentioned with Saul did before you started shooting. Everyone's very professional, very clipped, and they're almost heroic because they do their jobs so well. I mean, you guys do your jobs well, but there's definitely room for like, oh my God, this is a bit too much for me.
I think that's what we do really well with British drama, though. We don't worry so much about being heroic, do we? And then what the great result of that, whether it's in film or television, is that unexpected things happen and people behave in an unexpected way. Because if you're the hero, we all know what's going to happen to you, you know. So it's nice to see people be fallible and all of those things.
But you know, when you see it and you realise the efficiency of the operation and the scaliness of it, you do think, well, this is a perfect time to watch it, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really hard to describe because we were all really worried about it, and we thought there was a lot of there were a lot of conversations about, should we delay this transmission? Should we, postpone it till maybe the autumn? Or, there was a lot of concern. But I think that's it. I think you're absolutely right. I think it just feels so close to us that it doesn't. And also, what's great about it is there's no histrionics. We don't over dramatize. We don't, for to get a better narrative going. Nobody's running around, and it's really true. And the gentle unfolding of it is part of its reassuring nature, I think.
The people who took ill are Sergei and Yulia Skripal. Sergei was a high-level MI6 agent.
So what do we think it is?
We don't know yet.
Novichok.
It's one of the deadliest synthetic substances on Earth.
Do not go in that house. Repeat, do not go in that house.
Our job is to keep the people of Salisbury safe.
Is it going to be okay? I don't know.
Is Salisbury safe?
I don't think I can do this, Ted. This is just too big.
You're going to see this through, and so am I, no matter what it takes.
Skripal was a Russian spy. These are an innocent man and woman fighting for their lives.
You and your family are now at the centre of an international incident.
We don't know the source of contamination or have an established chain of events. All we do know is that for the people in Salisbury, we are their only line of defence.
Have you seen anything good lately, Marie Duff?
Well, you know what? There actually is a ton of stuff for us out there. I mean, even if, say you're missing theatre, just like the BBC, on iPlayer, they've got this whole sort of a huge Shakespeare performance section. And there's a gorgeous production of Othello with my friend Luciana Msamati playing Iago. And it's amazing. You've got this black Iago, it's just brilliant. And that's a gorgeous production. And also there's a show on at the Old Vic, I think it must have been about 18 months ago. And it was an adaptation of Angela Carter's Wise Children. And it's so much fun. And it's such a great, glorious performance. And that is also on iPlayer.
And are you all right with watching theatre on the telly?
Sometimes it really works. I remember ages ago seeing Gillian in Streetcar Named Desire on NT Live because I couldn't go and see it at the Young Vic, and it was just glorious. Sometimes it really can work. I mean, as long as you still feel the sense of performance, then it's, it's like the other night I watched the Laura Marling gig that she did at the Union Chapel, and that was just beautiful because there was never a moment that you always felt like you were at a live gig, and it was really quite precious. And I really enjoyed it, and I was worried that I wouldn't, But
am I making this up? Have I heard you do a Streetcar Named Desire?
Oh, only on the radio, dude.
Did it on the radio? Yeah. I knew I did hear it. Was that Radio 4 thing or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it work on the radio? It must. I think it did. I remember hearing you going being fabulous. Actually, I didn't know it was you. Actually, that's how good it was. Obviously, I couldn't see you, but.
Well, it's Tennessee Williams, so you can't go wrong, really, can you?
Not really.
Yeah.
And it just so that's a fabulous part for the radio, actually.
But also, I was thinking, and because I'm a massive fan of Curzon, they do this great Curzon home cinema, and I've actually used it before lockdown, even, where you can stream all these incredible movies, and now they've got this library of films. You can see it. I watched again the other day, Daughters of the Dust, which I think I saw when I was at drama school, maybe. It's a quite old film now, but it's the most remarkable film.
Which one's Daughters of the Dust, he says. Very embarrassed that he doesn't know that one.
It's one of those you can't quite believe. It was in the early 90s, and it was directed by Julie Dash, who was the first woman of colour.
Yes.
Huge film, and it's about a group of islanders, and they live just off the coast of Georgia, and then they discuss whether they're going to move on to the mainland, and they come from African slave culture, and they speak this weird sort of Creole, and they're sort of debating whether they're going to let go of their magical, amazing, extraordinary culture and move into American life. It's set in the turn of the last century, and it's just the most beautiful film. It's not linear, it kind of, the chronology of it bounces around, and it's sort of brilliant.
It's a touchstone of black feminist filmmaking, in fact, Daughters of the Dust. But you know what? I haven't seen Daughters of the Dust. I must see, because we're obviously, right, the conversation at the moment is supporting black artists, supporting people like Julie Dash and those untold, unheard voices and untold narratives. So that's a great recommendation. And I'm slightly embarrassed I haven't seen it, but this is what this show's about, actually. We kind of, lots of people haven't seen lots of stuff. I mean, you can't possibly see all the stuff unless you're Marie Duff, who seems to have been doing a lot of good homework. Well done, you.
Well, I'm just a culture vulture, I love it. And I'm just, the fact that Atom Egoyan's got a new movie out is brilliant, because it now means that on Curzon they've got loads of his old movies on there. So if you don't know his work, you can check it out there.
There's some brilliant stuff on there.
This is the time, I guess, to do your Godfather Day, isn't it? Or to do your, I don't know, Kozlovsky Day, or to do your... It's the sort of time when you can sit down and feast on stuff. That's the sort of gift that it brings us, isn't
the deep dive. So you've seen Daughters of the Dust. Anything else that you've completely that you'd forgotten, that you hadn't seen, or that you'd wanted to see again and you've really enjoyed doing?
Well, my favourite director is Pawel Pawlikowski. I'm just like obsessed with his movies. So I've been watching them all again. I mean, anyone who can do My Summer of Love and Ida and Cold War. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, how can you create all of those different beautiful
They're wonderful.
films?
And there's The Last Resort as well, which I think was one of the first, with Paddy Considine.
Paddy Considine, but also that beautiful Russian actress, I mean, he's just the most extraordinary filmmaker.
Isn't he? He's just brilliant. I mean, and I think Cold War is just, absolutely fantastic. It's so romantic and gorgeous, and Joanna Kulig's so amazing in it.
It's so sexy, it's so good. And he does that thing of casting extraordinary actors who have that, like the French say, jolie laide, sort of aren't perfect, but are so beautiful. And it's just, I think he's amazing. So yeah, that's kind of been what I've been up to, watching wise.
Yeah, good choice, Pawel Pawlikowski season. One always needs one, I think, because he does touch on such different things. My Summer of Love, I've forgotten how gorgeous that is, and how dangerous as well. Little Emily Blunt and little Natalie Press, they were so young.
So young, dude. So young.
Have you been listening to stuff, by the way, before I start saying goodbye to you? What have you been reading and listening? Or you sound like you've been just watching stuff.
I've been reading too, and I've been listening to radio because I think I've spoken to you about that before. I'm a real radio geek. So I do listen to the radio a lot, actually.
Who have you been listening to? Who's been keeping you company?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of stuff from Radio 4 because I'm getting old now. Also, what's great is Radio 4 Extra, because you could listen to like loads of brilliant old stuff from years and years ago. I love a bit of radio drama.
What have you been reading then? I need a book recommendation, actually. I'm coming to the end of Sally Rooney's Conversations with Normal People.
So good. And the adaptation of Normal People was so amazing, wasn't it?
It was. I really enjoyed every single bit of it, actually.
Oh, but my amazingly clever friend Lenny. But what have I been reading? I've been reading Anne Enright's Actress. I have also, I'm trying to think now. I've reread a couple of books, actually, because it's quite nice to go back to books that you read 20 odd years ago or whatever, because your response to them is so different now.
It's an interesting exercise, actually.
It is, actually, and how much you say, if you pick up a book like On the Road now, and how much of it you go, that you would at one point have gone, oh my God, that's just so extraordinary. Now you go, oh, fuck off.
Grow up. I like the ones where you read, and there's a teenage rebel at the heart of it, and when you first read it, you identified with them, and now you read them, and then there's the parents in it who are a bit shocked, and you identify with the parents now, and you think, oh no, that's wrong.
I absolutely know. I remember rewatching Rebel Without a Cause not that long ago and thinking, come on, you two, you can do a better job at parenting than that.
And Marie Duff, I know you said you listened to Laura Marling. I've been playing a lot of protest music because it seems to be what's in the air. I don't know if you've been listening to any music along those lines.
Well, I have a 10-year-old son, so I've had a bit of AJ Tracy rammed down my throat, unfortunately.
Live and direct.
That's the kind of protest music that I've been.
You're not supposed to. Protest music doesn't mean I protest that you have to turn it off. It's the
It's so funny.
My kids protest when I do AJ Tracy live and DJ mash up the deck. They protest very, very loudly.
Oh, that's so funny. See, I think when your parents are actors, like, kids expect you to be a bit of a dick anyway, so whenever you are, they're a bit like, yeah, just being mum again. Yeah.
But have you managed to have any of those conversations? I found actually I programmed a little season on my blog about racial protest films, and I watched The Hate You Give with my kids, which is a fantastic film actually, and is the one that can be attempted by younger kids, 10, 11, and it prompted the most adult conversation we've ever had as a family. I thought it was really rather inspirational for that.
Well, children are wise. We make them unwise, don't we? We make them stupid by teaching them prejudice. And so kids are very articulate about it. We started having to have the conversation because my kid is a big football fan. You won't like it. He's a Tottenham fan. I'm sorry.
I thought he was all right. Anyway.
So a couple of matches we'd been to and we'd heard some stupid noises and things. And I had to explain that to him. And his face is just like, well, but it just doesn't make any sense, and that's the point. There's just absolutely no sense to it. And that's why kids are awesome. So you can actually they really do understand, because of the nature of bullying in the playground or whatever, they do understand and they're able to articulate quite wisely, I think. I had this extraordinary moment where I said to him, I'm a bit worried about the protests with the virus, and he looked me dead in the eye and he said, yeah, well, better to die from a virus than from a racial attack, Mum. And I was kind of blown away by that a child could be able to just look at two evils and see the lesser of two evils. And it just really broke my heart. I loved the fact that he felt that way, but it broke my heart at the same time,
Absolutely. Fantastic talking to you, and great seeing you in the Salisbury Poisonings. I hope people tune in by their millions to see it. Well, they will, because they've got nowhere else to go, to be honest. You've got a brilliant captive audience. Lovely talking to you, Marie Duff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
And you can watch Marie Duff in the Salisbury Poisonings on iPlayer now. She and it are a riveting watch. Simon Bird made nerdy popular on British TV with his glasses and pompous failure in comedy smash hits The In-Betweeners, which included 2 massive movie spin-offs, and the much-loved Friday Night Dinner. The actor now turns director for his debut, The Days of the Bagnold Summer. It's the story of a summer holidays gone wrong when a surly metal fan teenager, Daniel, played by Earl Cave, is forced to spend the summer with his librarian mum, Sue, played by the brilliant Monica Dolan. It's a subtle English comedy about the suburbs and growing up, a bit, and marks a change of pace for Simon Bird, who was delighted to share his experiences of making his first film and the films that influenced it. Director, do you like that appellation, Simon?
Oh, I do, yeah. That sent a sort of shiver down my spine. Yes, I guess I do. Actually, it's really the most collaborative job there is. That's why I love it. It's because you get to work with. You just basically manage a team of amazing people.
Well, did you know that was the job? I mean, growing up and I suppose, thinking about it when you're younger, you think, well, I'd love to be a film director. We don't really know that it entails marshalling a great team of people. How did you learn what it took to be one? Just by watching all the ones you've worked with, I guess?
Yeah, totally. I think that over the last decade or so, I've spent a lot of time on set and got to work with some amazing people. And yeah, I think that's what I've discovered is the best ones are the ones that are sort of personable and everybody wants to go out of their way to help succeed.
Now, I'd say that you're a director, Simon, actually sort of getting to grips with Days of the Bagnold Summer. It was a book originally, wasn't it? By your wife.
And it still is. The book is not by my wife, no, it's by a guy called Geoff Winterhart, and it came out I think in 2011 or 2012 and was very successful for a graphic novel, which didn't have a great track record as a genre in this country, but I think it was the first graphic novel ever nominated for the Costa Book Award or something like that. And I think that's probably how it sort of got on my radar. I read it and loved it. And then when I started thinking about directing a feature film, I sort of kept coming back to this book because I thought there was something in it that felt sort of original and interesting. Then my wife adapted the book into the screenplay.
Did she, or was there a sort of decision where you said, I'm thinking of directing this, and she went, well, look, I'll write it. I'll write the damn thing for you, and then you can go off and make it and get out the house.
Actually, the discussion was we're trying to find ways for that not to be the situation. I spent a long time sort of looking into other screenwriters before we just decided, no, this is much easier. It makes much more sense for Lisa, who is a brilliant novelist and writer, to have a crack at it.
Yeah, I mean, how was the process? Did you sort of let her go away and do it, or was it quite collaborative? And she come back to you and sort of say, "Well, is that how you would like to see it?" Was she aware of what your visual approach was going to be? How did you sort of thrash it out between you?
It was great actually, because we've obviously spent the last decade or longer watching films together, so I think that we have very similar taste and very similar sensibility, so a lot of it was unspoken really, and I sort of knew the sort of thing she was going to come up with. So no, she just went away and did it herself. I definitely wasn't sort of over her shoulder checking every line that she typed. I think that would have been horrible for everyone.
Could you imagine? It'd be awful. I need a semicolon there. Yeah.
And similarly, she was very hands off when when I was shooting it. She wasn't watching rushes or making suggestions. So no, we sort of left each other to our separate parts of the process.
So it intrigues me, if you've been watching films together over this period, who were the sort of palettes that you were referring to, both as writers and directors? Who seeped into you as influences?
Well, I think we both have very similar taste actually, and a lot of our favourite films are comedy dramas, a lot of them from the 70s or 80s. And I guess, the directors I'm talking about are like Hal Ashby and Peter Bogdanovich and Elaine May.
Oh, wow.
Mike Nichols. Those are the films we sort of keep coming back to. But actually for this film, I think it had some more sort of specific references, because there's something weirdly 90s about it. I think there's it feels... it's a coming of age film, and I think it's probably the look of it and the story of it is probably quite influenced by American indie films like Rushmore and Dazed and Confused and that sort of genre.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have those great auteurs that you mentioned there, the great comedies of the 70s, like Heartbreak Kid, Last Picture House.
That might be my favourite film of all time.
Really? I've only just discovered it, Simon. Heartbreak Kid.
It's amazing, and the people who haven't seen it, it's very hard to track down. It is on YouTube. I know I shouldn't say that. It is on YouTube, but I'm only saying that because it's not available to rent or buy anywhere as far as I'm aware.
It was just great. I thought it was a really fine piece of work. So good choice there as favourite.
It's just it was a different era of, I feel like nowadays comedy has become very, I keep using this word, but genreified. And you sort of, I don't know, it's all about the laughs. Whereas I felt like back then, the fact that it was a comedy didn't prevent it from being a great and weirdly serious film. And you had, proper serious directors who made films that were funny, but that were also sad and saying something as well. Yeah, I think just naturally, a lot of the sort of references in my head were American. I just felt like for this, why not just try and do the total opposite? The story is about two very ordinary people, and I just wanted to make them sort of the heroes and give them a proper Technicolor, widescreen, cinematic treatment.
I don't know why I just can't wait until I'm back.
Because you'll be jet-lagged and won't want to come into town, and you'll end up with no shoes to wear to the wedding. What about those?
No.
What's wrong with them?
Horrible.
What's horrible about them?
Everything.
It's just a basic black shoe, isn't it?
Exactly.
I can't get anything right.
You could let me wear my trainers.
You're not wearing your trainers.
Why not? They're black.
Hardly. Tippexed all over with that awful morbid rubbish.
It's not rubbish. It's Metallica.
It's not appropriate for a wedding.
It's poetry. People read poems at weddings. Why don't I get some new trainers then?
You are wearing proper shoes to this wedding.
A wedding of two people I've never even met.
You have met them, actually, Daniel. When you were 2, Judith saved you from choking on a grape.
I don't remember.
It was rather frightening, actually. Your face went blue and your eyes sort of bugged out. How about that?
Nope.
Simon, have you seen anything good lately? What have you been watching?
The thing I watched most recently is Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Have you seen that?
The Scorsese film.
Yeah, it's the most un-Scorsese film I've ever seen. But I mean, this is going to be very controversial, but I think it might be my favourite Scorsese film.
Well, it is very different, isn't it? It's Ellen Burstyn.
Like
right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a sort of feminist road movie, and it's rather than a masculine crime saga.
Yeah, I'd like. I haven't seen it for donkey's years. I think it's almost 30 years I haven't seen it.
Well, I just thought it's hilarious. And Ellen Burstyn is absolutely, just one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen.
Is it a comedy?
It is, yeah. It's. I thought it was.
Well, it's as Scorsese films always go, like funny how? Funny like
yeah, exactly. Another film we really enjoyed recently was the Second Mother, which is a Brazilian comedy drama, I guess, about a maid in a big posh Brazilian house whose daughter comes to live with her in her sort of servants' quarters. It's sort of a funny version of Roma, I guess.
Yes, I've seen the Second Mother. I thought that was terrific. I've forgotten that I've seen it, but it's really good. In their big house, yes, and she comes. And then there's an incident with the
I
son
won't give anything away, but yeah, there's...
That's the one. I'm just remembering it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very sort of small story. It's ultimately about sort of class war done in a very sort of warm and miniaturized way.
Yeah.
And then also I just sort of finally got around to seeing some of the films from last year that I should have seen but missed, like Little Women, which is, as everyone knows, impeccable and really entertaining.
You liked it? You liked Little Women?
I really liked it.
I did as well, I have to say. I thought it was exquisite, really.
Yeah. Greta Gerwig's just obviously amazing.
Yeah.
Sort of great documentary about the people who draw cartoons for the New Yorker, which is really fun. It's called Very Semi-Serious.
I've seen its existence, but I haven't had a look at it actually.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. It's fun. Then I've been watching some sort of, I guess this is just to move into TV, but there's like film TV overlap. But somebody really recommended to me the work of Molly Dineen. I don't know whether you've ever seen any of her stuff.
She's a documentary maker, yeah.
The BFI have just released all her box sets of her films, her TV films, and they are absolutely incredible.
What's her signature as a documentary maker?
She's not front of camera in the sort of Louis Theroux style. She's off camera, but she does. She's not shy of chipping in, but I think she will not be told what to film, and I think as she became more successful and more famous, I think a lot of people tried to hire her to do puff pieces. One of the extra features on her DVDs is she did the party political broadcast for the Labour Party in 1997. And I think they didn't understand that they wouldn't have Final Cut. And it's great because it's an actually proper behind-the-scenes portrait of Tony Blair in a way that I'd never really seen before, and it has lots of footage of him at home, and ditto. She did an amazing film called Jerry about Jerry Halliwell. And Jerry Halliwell rang her I literally think the day after she left the Spice Girls, and asked her to come and follow her around for a year. Again, I think assuming that it would just be a promotional piece, but instead it's a very sort of warts and all portrait of Jerry Halliwell, and it's brilliant. So I think, the Molly Dineen box set I'd really recommend.
Excellent choice, Simon. But have you managed to be reading? I know you're a big reader normally, but a lot of people have been on the show and they sort of said I've had trouble getting concentration in lockdown with the book. How have you been finding that?
Been reading a lot of kids' books. Got a lot of kids' books recommendations.
Yeah, go on then, because I need those.
Well, yeah. Okay, I could do those. Before lockdown, I should say, this isn't a Cummings moment, but before lockdown, my parents had kept all the books they had for me and my brothers and sisters when we were kids in their loft. So I went and got a big old dusty book of kids' books from the 80s. And there's some amazing stuff in there. I've been really enjoying Frog and Toad. If anyone's got any 4-year-olds, Frog and Toad is where it's at.
Works. And it still works for you. I mean, it worked for you in the 80s.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It still works
they're timeless. By a guy called Arnold LaBelle. They're brilliant. And the Little Bear books as well by Maurice Sendak are amazing.
Wow, they're still doing it. Maurice Sendak, obviously, yeah.
But in terms of sort of adult literature, like a lot of people, I was very much looking forward to the new installment of the Wolf Hall trilogy. So I've just finished The Mirror and the Light, Hilary Mantel's
how
book.
were you transported?
Yeah, I was, very much so. I mean, it's amazing, obviously, and a fitting culmination to those.
Yeah, I must admit, with full embarrassment, I haven't read them at all. Maybe I'm waiting for I was waiting for the whole lot so I could
Philistine.
devour. I am a Philistine. I've been reading Sally Rooney, is what I've been reading.
Okay, well that's fine. That's acceptable.
Simon, absolute pleasure having you on. Absolute pleasure catching up with you. Congratulations on Bagnold coming out. Days of the Bagnold Summer. Enjoy it because we're in summer, and I suppose all families will appreciate that even more. I suppose now in lockdown. The things you make seem to kind of have because of obviously Friday night dinners about families as well, sort of all squished together.
It's bizarrely relevant. I mean, it's literally about people whose summer holidays are cancelled, so they have to stay in the house together. So, yeah, I promise that I didn't.
This is not your fault.
No, I wasn't in Wuhan trying to create any sort of. I'm not going to get into that.
Exactly. But whatever you see, that's what great art does. It predicts and it's prescient, and that's what you've done, Simon Bird. Thanks very much. Lovely to hear from you. And thanks for all your great recommendations. I've now got to go and catch up with a load of stuff down to you. Damn you. Thanks for joining me, Simon.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Days of the Bagnold Summer is out now to view on a host of platforms, including Amazon Prime, Curzon Home Cinema, BFI Player, and Sky Store. And that's it for Seen Anything Good Lately. I'll put up all my guests' mentions and recommendations on the website, jasonsolomons.com. And don't forget, that's where you can also get in touch to tell me if you've seen anything good lately. Just email sagl@jasonsolomons.com. That's SAGL for Seen Anything Good Lately @jasonsolomons.com. And I'll see you again very soon with guests including David Thewlis, Joe Hartley, Ashley Henry, Woody Allen, Greta Scacchi, loads more. Thanks so much for listening, and just let me know if you've seen anything good lately.